Good morning, everyone, and welcome to a special edition of the MMAOB Daily Podcast. I'm your host, as always, Adam Martin, and I'm joined by my buddy here, Cole Shelton, to break down UFC San Antonio. Cole, we'll save our plug for later in the show. How's it going, Cole? How was your weekend? And tell me what you did.
Just watched the UFC Sacramento card. The prelims dragged on. We were all in like the Slack chat of Sherdog, like, wow, this sucks. And then the main card started. It's like, wow, this is like the final three fights are unreal. The drained enemy stoppage, I didn't agree with that, but like I just think whenever it is, I think girls fights get stopped earlier than like I think if that was like a male fight, Dean would have let it stop, like let at least a couple more ground pound shots go in. But overall, it was like the main card was really good. The prelims kind of dragged on. But how was your weekend?
I was pretty good, man. I mean, my sister got married, so that was a big deal for her family, obviously. Like, I only have one sister, so it's pretty crazy. I didn't end up catching the card until after I came home from the event. So I kind of skipped through the prelims, but I watched the main card. It was a pretty good main card, but apparently I missed some horrible prelims. So hey, I guess I lucked out a little bit on missing a bad card, but I was able to check it out, and I checked out Bellator too. I skipped through that and watched the main card again, and pretty good card as well. But we'll talk about those cards later. To be honest, Cole, although I do agree with what your point was about. Women's fights being stopped earlier. I mean, that stoppage was absolute terror. I mean, it was a bad stoppage. Like, I don't know. I kind of know. I agree with what you're saying, but we'll talk about it after we break down UFC San Antonio. That's why you guys are here. That's why we're here. We're going to break down the full card. We have odds for all, I believe, 12 fights on the card. Should be actually 13 fights, so it's a stack card. There's a lot of fights. I'll be doing the play-by-play call. Are you going to be scoring or?
Not sure yet. Jay hasn't asked, but if he does, I will.
No worries. Okay, hopefully you do. But either way, let's just get right into it. So let's start from the bottom, of course, and work our way up. All right. Okay, so here we go. First fight of the night. Bantamweight bout between Domingo Pilarte and Felipe Corrales. Opening odds had Pilarte open as minus 275 favorite and Corrales open at plus 195. Currently, we have Pilarte at minus 320 and Corrales at plus 260. So some action coming on Pilarte, of course. Who's your pick here, Cole?
I really like Pilarte. He impressed me on the Contender series. Submitted Vince Morales. He was supposed to, I talked to him before the fight. He hasn't fought since last summer, since the Contender series. He was supposed to fight Brian Kelleher at UFC 230, which would have been a good fight, but he got hurt. He hurt his, I think it said it was a knee really bad, but it was something. So he's been out for that long. But this is an interesting fight because both of them are really good at jiu-jitsu. They both have really solid ground game. But when I talked to Pilarte, I'm really like, you guys kind of even out. He's like, yeah, but I think I have a huge advantage on the feet, so I just want to keep this fight standing. So it's going to be interesting to see both these guys stand up, but I think Pilarte gets done. I wouldn't be surprised if he finishes this fight either.
Yeah, I agree with you on this one. I mean, he's a big favorite for a reason. The odds are like they are for a reason because he should win this fight. Pilarte is definitely good, man. 5 straight wins. Looked really good in the Contender series, beating Vince Morales. The fight was almost exactly a year ago till tomorrow, actually. So don't like guys coming off a long layoff, but, you know, it was a year ago, and it's not crazy long ago. Corrales just hasn't impressed me, really. Debut against Geraldo de Freitas, awful performance. I thought he actually might win that fight. It just didn't look good. To me, he's just not a guy that's actually UFC caliber at all. This is a good matchup for Pilarte. I think he wins this fight, dominates him on the ground. Maybe he gets a submission, like you said, Cole gets a finish. So give me Domingo with Pilarte, and minus 320, it looks about right because he should win this fight, and he should probably finish the fight as well. All right, next up, we have another bantamweight bout between – actually, there's quite a few bantamweight bouts here, Cole. Next one, bantamweight bout between Mario Batista and Jinsu Son. Opening odds had Son actually as the favorite, minus 265. Batista open at plus 185. Currently, we have Son at minus 200, Batista at plus 170. Who do you like here, Cole?
This is a really hard fight to pick because both their UFC debuts, they lost, but they fought really tough guys. Like Son fought Peter Yan, who was one of the top prospects in bantamweight, and Bautista stepped in on short notice to fight Corey Sandhagen, who's another top prospect at bantamweight. So you didn't really see like their skills in their debut because they were both like just dominating. Like Bautista is dominated by Sandhagen, but those aren't bad losses. So you didn't really see a whole lot. So it's kind of picturing how this is like I envision this as both their UFC debuts really because Bautista stepped in on short notice. They both fought top 5, top 10 guys. So now, but I do think Son is a bit better. I think he showed more against Peter Yan. I think this fight goes the distance, but I think it is a really close fight, and I think the odds don't really reflect that. I think it should be a lot closer, but it's a super close fight in my mind.
Who'd you pick, though? You picked Son?
Son, yeah.
Yeah,
I got him by decision.
Yeah, I agree with you on this one. Very, very close fight. The odds are. I was surprised the odds were spread that far apart. Because both guys obviously lost their debuts. But you know what? Son actually looked, I think, pretty good against Peter Yan, man, especially looking back now. Look how good Yan is, right? Like this guy was actually competitive. I think he won the first round in that fight. So he's pretty good, man. 26 years old, trained with the Korean Zombie. Guy's not bad. Before he lost that fight to Yan, he'd won 4 straight fights in deep. He's got quite a bit of experience fighting over there. He's fought some really good competition. If you look at his resume, Cole, he's fought some high level guys. Like for that area of the world, he's fought some high level guys. So good competition. And then you got Batista here, MMA lab product. Lost to Corey Sandhagen. That's not a bad loss, of course, but got finished. And then before that, he won all his fights, including a couple fights in LFA. I think he's pretty good too. But you look at the level of competition, I think Son's fought better guys, man. I really do, and I like him to win this fight. I'll take Son to win a decision, but the odds to me are a little bit spread apart, because a little bit too far spread apart. I don't know. I'm not feeling a bet right now. Maybe I'll change my mind, but I do favor Son to win the fight. Next up, bantamweight bout, another one between Ray Borg and Gabriel Silva. Ray Borg opened at what do you open at? Ray Borg opened at -295. Silva opened at +215. Currently, we have Ray Borg -235 and Silva at +195. So slight actions coming on the dog Silva. Cole, who's your pick in this one?
This is another close fight. It's really interesting because Ray Borg, I think he needs to win this fight or he's cut, especially if he misses weight. He cannot miss weight, and he has to come in. Came in heavy last one against Casey Kenney. A lot of people thought he won. I can't remember if I scored for him, but it was a close fight. But this one against Silva, it's kind of funny. Like Ray Borg just, 2 years ago was fighting Demetrius Johnson for the title, and now he's fighting newcomers to the UFC with his job on the line. But I favor Ray Borg in this one just to the experience, but it's hard to say because as of late, he hasn't really looked that impressive. Bantamweight, I thought he'd look better, not having cut the weight, but he still missed weight. Didn't look that good against Casey Kenney, who was another UFC newcomer. So it's hard to say if Borg is on the decline or it's just he's fighting the guys that are or he's kind of lost, I guess, that he is on the decline. But Silva, I think, is kind of that opponent where Ray Borg can get a win, and ultimately, I think he might be able to finish this fight, but I'm not confident in that at all because Ray Borg really hasn't looked impressed as of late.
I like your breakdown, Cole. I agree with everything you said. So with Ray Borg, I actually picked Casey Kenney in the last fight. I liked Kenney there as a dog. He ended up winning. It was a really close fight. Could have went either way, but I was glad to hit him as a dog. And I was looking at the Silva guy. So he's pretty good for what I've seen, Cole. He's young too. He's 24. Borg somehow is only 25 years old. He feels like he's been in the UFC forever. And he's been through so much in his life, obviously, with his child being ill, and then all the weight misses, all the injuries, the bus accident with McGregor. Like, he's been through so much in such a short period of time. But you know what? It's crazy, Cole. Like, I actually feel like he's kind of on decline or something, like, at such a young age. Just, I don't know why. Like, I don't know what's going on with him. Maybe he needs to change his camps. Don't really know what he's doing these days. Just hasn't really looked like the guy that we thought he would be when he made his UFC debut. He lost to Dustin Ortiz in his debut, but looked so good in that fight, and he could have won that fight. And since then, he's just kind of, actually, he had some good wins and then struggled after the Demetrius Johnson fight really bad. Obviously lost that fight, but then the Casey Kenney fight. And then if you look at Tapology, Cole, he had 6 straight canceled bouts. I mean, that's insane to me. That's crazy, right? So some of that was his fault. Some of that was his opponent's fault, but he just hasn't been fighting consistently lately. This Gabriel Silva guy, I watched some tape on him. Looks pretty good. He's a perfect 8-0 in his 7-0, in his career. LFA guy as well, so he has good experience there. I watched some of his fights in Jungle Fight. He looks pretty good, man. He's got a good ground game, good striking. Just to me, it's just the experience, though, is heavily favored in Borg's favor. And also the fact he just fought Kenney a couple months ago, like, that should help him. After the Demetrius Johnson fight, it was like over a year between fights. And again, I don't like guys coming off layoffs, but now he's actually had some cage time again. I favor Ray Borg very slightly, Cole. I would not bet on Ray Borg here. I do not think he's worth a bet at all. This is a dog or pass situation. If someone wanted to make the argument for Gabriel Silva, I'd listen for sure. It's dog or pass situation. If I had to bet on this fight, I'd bet on Silva, but I'm going to pick Borg to win a decision here. I think he can grind it out. I think his wrestling and his experience will get him the win here, but there's no way I'd pick him because I just don't think you could trust Ray Borg at this point in time. All right, next up, we have women's flyweight bout between Roxanne Modafferi and Jennifer Maia. The opening odds had Jennifer Maia actually opened as the favorite -130. Modafferi opened at -110. Currently, we have Maia -120 and Modafferi at +100. So line's pretty much held steady here with Maia as a slight favorite in what's essentially a pick'em fight. Who do you like here, Cole?
This is an interesting fight. They fought for the Invicta title in 2016 or 2015, and it went to a split decision. Like, they fought 5 rounds before. So I talked to Modafferi before this fight, and she's like, normally the first round, it's a lot of feeling each other out. They think they're just going to go right at it. They have 25 minutes against each other. They know each other's. So it should be an interesting fight. Maya's coming off that win over Alexis Davis. Modafferi's coming off that huge upset over Shevchenko. So they both look good as of late, but I favor Jennifer Maia a tiny bit more. I think she can get a decision done. This is like not a confident bet. I think it could go either way. Just like their last fight, it was super close. This is a fight I don't think anyone finishes. I think it goes to the scorecards. I think Maya's just a tad better and gets another win over Modafferi.
Yeah, I hate to be boring here, but I actually agree with you on this one, Cole. And, this one actually I've been thinking about a lot. I was really digging into this one last night because Modafferi has really surprised me lately, man. I did not expect her to beat Shevchenko. I think that was a good win for her. She won a split decision, but let's be honest, that should have been unanimous. She also smashed Barb Honchak, who used to be a really good fighter. So that was a good win. But the Sajara Eubanks fight is kind of a similar matchup, I think, here. Sajara is definitely a better striker than Maia, but for the most part, I feel like it could play out similarly where Maia could just keep the fight standing and on the feet. I do think she can batter Roxanne, and as long as she stays away from the ground. I mean, Roxanne might be able to get takedowns here. I just don't trust Roxanne. She's very inconsistent. I couldn't put money on her personally, although anyone who bet on her last fight obviously made good bank because she was a big underdog there. This fight's a lot closer as far as the odds go. I have to go with Maia, though. She's just more consistent. She gets the job done more often. I'm going to pick Jennifer Maia to win a decision. You're picking by decision, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think what's the prop on that? Maia by decision is plus 140. So maybe that's the way to go. Probably just better off if you're going to bet on this fight to just go with her straight up. But for me personally, I don't know. I'm not sure if it's worth betting on because Roxanne might be able to steal a couple rounds. And women's fights sometimes are very close to judge, and the judges go with the other fighter, like you saw with Shevchenko and Modafferi, where Shevchenko was one scorecard away from actually winning a terrible decision. All right, next up, we have a light heavyweight bout between Klidson Abreu and Sam Alvey. Klidson Abreu opened at minus 150. Sam Alvey opened at plus 150. Presently, we have Abreu at minus 160. Sam Alvey plus 140. Who's your pick here, Cole?
This is another interesting fight. Sam Alvey's coming off the two knockout losses to Crew. He didn't like that one. And Abreu, his UFC debut, he lost to Ankalev. Yeah. But this is a fight where Alvey has to keep the fight on the feet and use his striking. Abreu's going to look to take it down and use his submission skills. Where Alvey, the last real solid jiu-jitsu guy he fought was Eric Spicely, and he submitted him. So I think Alvey, I favor his experience, and I really think he's kind of like the gatekeeper now. Before you get into the rankings of the gatekeepers at light heavyweight, but I think he gets this done. I think he keeps his fight on the feet, and I think he either gets a late finish, like a late TKO, or he just grinds out a decision win.
Yeah, this one's close for sure. I definitely wasn't impressed by Abreu's performance against Ankalaev. That didn't make me think like this guy can be anything special in the UFC, but he does have some, I guess, decent wins before that. Victor Nemkov's decent win. Arthur Kusanov, it's not bad. He even beat Johnny Walker, Cole. He beat him by submission earlier in his career, obviously, but that's a huge win looking back. Definitely was not impressed, though, with the Ankalaev fight, so I don't trust this guy. But Sam Alvey, I mean, at this point, I can't trust him either. 33 years old now, coming off back-to-back stoppage losses against Little Nog and Jimmy Crute. Sam Alvey is known for his durable chin and his ability to take a shot throughout his career. But, Cole, he's been in so many wars. He's had so many fights. He does have more experience, but with that experience comes a price, man, and he's taking a ton of damage here. So I got to fade Sam Alvey here. I don't want to because I really like Sam Alvey, but I have to because I just can't trust a guy who's taking that much punishment and been knocked out in 2 straight fights. I always like to fade guys like that. I got to fade him here. Give me Ankalaev to win the fight. Maybe grind out a decision or something, but there's no way I'd bet on him because I don't trust him after seeing the way he performed against Ankalaev. So it'll be a pick for Abreu, but no bet on this one for me. Next up, women's bantamweight bout between Raquel Pennington and Irene Aldana. I like this matchup. Aldana opened at minus 145. Pennington opened at plus 105. Currently, we have Aldana at minus 155. Pennington plus 135. Who are you taking here?
I like the underdog. I like Pennington. Her last 2 fights, she lost to Jermaine Duranamy and Amanda Nunes, the current champ and probably the next in line for the title. But she has wins over Miesha Tate, Betch Correa. She had beat Jessica Andrade, and she has a win over Modafferi. Although she isn't on a 2-fight losing streak, and Aldana has looked good as of late, beat Betch Correa, and she's on a 3-fight winning streak. But I think Pennington's just a tad better. I think she uses her striking. And I think this fight is another one that goes the distance, but I think Pennington gets back into the win column and gets him. And because I think this is just a fight that's too much too soon for Aldana. I'm really high on her, but I just think Pennington's just too good for her right now.
Yeah, this should be a good fight. I actually think this could be fight of the night because I think it's going to stay in the center of the octagon. Both girls are going to bang it out. We've seen Aldana win fight of the night. I think Pennington's won before, but not 100% sure. But either way, I think that they're going to stand in the octagon and trade. Although Pennington will probably be smart to get this fight to the ground because I think that's where she has the biggest advantage. If it does stay in the feet, I actually favor Aldana in this fight, man. Definitely been impressed with her lately. Just, I think, really good striking. She's really put it together, 3 straight wins now. She's looked a lot better than her first 2 fights where she lost to Smith and Chukagian. Just looked a lot better. I was at the fight with Korea. She won that fight by submission. I still favor Pennington if the fight goes to the mat, even with that submission win in her last fight. But I look back at her earlier career. She had some good wins in Invicta as well. So for me, it's just Pennington. I have to fade her, man, because the loss to Amanda Nunes, that's the kind of loss that changes a fighter's career. And I wasn't impressed with her fight against Durandamy. She got picked apart. Yes, it's GDR. I get it. Don't get me wrong. It's not a bad loss to have, but I just don't like when fighters get smashed like she did against Nunes. They're never the same. Very rarely they come back the same. I'm fading Pennington here. I'm going to go with Aldana. I think she grinds out a decision in what I think should be a really exciting fight. Next up, featherweight bout between Alex Caceres and Steven Peterson. The opening odds had Caceres at -130, Peterson -110. Currently, we have Caceres -160, Peterson +140. Who's your pick, Cole?
I like the underdog again. I like Steven Peterson. I haven't been impressed with Alex Caceres at all in his UFC career. Like, everyone says he has a big name, but if you look at his record, all the names that casual MMA fans will know are guys he lost to. His fight against Kron Gracie, he did not look good at all. Steven Peterson lost last fight to Louis Pena, but Pena came in, 3 pounds overweight and put on a heck of a performance. Like, it was a great fight. I wouldn't be surprised if Peterson even knocks out Caceres like a TKO in the first or second round. I think Peterson, they're both like, I don't think they'll ever be in the rankings, either of them, but this is should just be a fun fight where I think Peterson will keep the fight on the feet and just use his striking to outclass Caceres.
Yeah, I like Peterson too, man, as a underdog here. So I guess that's our consensus dog at this point in the breakdown. So we both like Peterson. For me, it's a fade on Caceres. Again, a guy who's so inconsistent, man. I pick against him every fight. He's won a couple of these fights, but for the most part, Cole, he just loses, man. He's got a losing record in the octagon. He's definitely a skilled fighter. He's got some good striking. He's got some submissions, but he gets way too often beaten to the punch. He gets submitted a lot too. I just don't trust him at all. Peterson obviously has struggled in the UFC with a 1-2 record, but I think that, like you said, Cole, for a guy that was fighting a significantly bigger opponent in his last fight, he actually put up a decent scrap, and then he had that win over Bissett and a close loss to Davis. So he's been inconsistent lately. I don't like his recent resume at all, but I do think he wins this fight, man. Give me Peterson. Maybe wins by knockout, but I think decision is much more likely, to be honest. Although I guess you can't count a knockout out either, just considering Caceres has been finished before. But yeah, Steven Peterson +140. That's his underdog I am looking at as well. All right, time to go to the main card here. Opening up the main card, heavyweight rematch between Andrei Arlovski and Ben Rothwell. These two fought a long time ago in Affliction with Arlovski beating Rothwell by KO. They're rematching here in 2019. Ben Rothwell opened at -215. Arlovski opened at +165. Currently, we have Ben Rothwell as, where is he here? -185 favorite, and Arlovski at +160. Who's your pick in this rematch, Cole?
I like Ben Rothwell in this one. I just can't bet on Andrei Arlovski at all. He's looked terrible as of late. Rothwell at least he came off that long layoff, and he ended up going distance with Blago Ivanov. I know a lot of people thought Rothwell won. It was a super close fight, and he looked good against Ivanov, who now beat Tai Tuivasa, is now in what, I think top 10 or for sure top 15. I think Rothwell gets this done. I wouldn't even be surprised if he finishes Arlovski, but I think going to the distance is more likely just because Arlovski is really, like, just saying again, he has not looked good as of late. Like, he lost to Augusto Sakai, which was controversial, lost to Walt Harris, Shmil Abdurakhimov, and lost to Tai Tuivasa. That's 4 losses in a row. One's a no contest because Walt Harris was popped by USADA. This is a fight, like, I just can't. I'm just fading Arlovski in this one, really.
100% agreed. There's no way I would ever put money on Andrei Arlovski at this point in his career. I mean, let's be fair. He probably should have won the fight with Sakai, but he lost, and he's lost 4 straight. He's actually 2-8 and 1 no contest in his last 11 fights. That's a terrible record. He's an easy guy to bet against, and I don't like this matchup for him. Even though he did beat Rothwell those years ago, there's no way I think he beats him now. I think Rothwell just a better fighter. You know, he actually had the layoff, but he came back recently. He had a really close fight with Ivanov. Should have won that fight. So both guys coming off kind of bad, I think, decision losses. But both guys, older guys at this point in their career. But I just feel like Rothwell, more durable guy, better chin, I think, better striking, more power. I like a lot about Rothwell in this fight, man. Even though he hasn't looked great lately, I just think he's a much better fighter, Cole, and I think he wins this fight. I think he can easily knock out Andrei Arlovski if he connects. So Rothwell inside the distance, that's plus 160, but I guess he could grind out a decision too. I mean, Arlovski hasn't been finished in a while, actually, somehow, but at some point he will be knocked out again. Anyways, I do like Ben Rothwell a lot in this fight. I think he wins pretty handedly, actually. Next up, a really intriguing lightweight bout here, Cole. I like this matchup a lot as well. Francisco Trinaldo against Alexander Hernandez. We got Alexander Hernandez opening at minus 175. For Trinaldo opening at plus 135. And currently we have Hernandez at minus 185 and Trinaldo at plus 160. Who's your pick here, Cole?
Yeah, I'm surprised they never rebooked Diego Ferreira versus Francisco Trinaldo after Ferreira missed after he couldn't make or he had like kidney stones or something like that before 237. This is a really interesting fight. I favor Alexander Hernandez. Obviously, his last fight, he got knocked out to Cowboy, and everyone's like, "Oh, he's a bum" because of the way he was talking. But what do you want them to do? Like, he's trying to build up his name and his career. Like, obviously, didn't go his way. But if you look at his UFC career, he knocked out Beneil Dariush and then dominated OAM by decision. Trinaldo hasn't fought since September last year. Not a long layoff. And he beat Evan Dunham, lost to James Vick before that. But I favor Hernandez. I think he can finish this fight. I wouldn't be surprised if he knocks him out like second or third round.
Both guys are really good fighters. I think that Trinaldo, for some reason, has never got the respect he deserves because he's an older guy. He's 40 years old, but Cole, he's still winning fights. I mean, he looked great against Evan Dunham last year, knocked him out to the body. I think he retired him, actually. So he's looked great. Hernandez, coming off a knockout loss against Cowboy, didn't look good in that fight, but before that had won every fight of his career and looked, or actually not every fight, he had lost earlier in his career, but for the most part, he'd been on a nice win streak and looked great. The thing I like about him here is, of course, the age advantage, 26 years old compared to Trinaldo, who's 40. Again, those situations I will always bet against the older guy, although it didn't work out very well last weekend with Ricky Simone against who I favor. Very similar situation, Cole. But you know what? That can happen in the sport. I don't think it happens here. I think Hernandez is the better fighter, the faster fighter. I think he's just a little bit sharper. Again, the younger guy, better cardio he should have as well. So give me Hernandez to maybe win a decision here. I mean, Trinaldo's extremely tough, very hard to finish. He could get submitted, but I would take Hernandez by decision, and I think he wins this fight. And I agree with you. I'm surprised they didn't rebook the Ferreira fight because I think Ferreira actually got a fight booked, if I'm mistaken, against Tysonov. Is that who's fighting? I think
he's fighting on the Dubai card. Who's he fighting?
So it's just strange that they didn't rebook that fight. I mean, why not just rebook it? But either way, this is a good matchup. Am I right? It is Tysonov? Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, there you go. All right, next fight. Another lightweight bout here. Dan Hooker against James Vick. Dan Hooker opened at minus 185. James Vick opened at plus 145. Right now we have Dan Hooker minus 140, James Vick plus 120. So slight actions coming in on the underdog James Vick. What do you think about that, Cole?
This is a fight that I've been going back and forth on for a while. This is a super close fight. Like James Vick, he got knocked out to Gaethje and then lost a decision to Paul Felder. Dan Hooker's coming off that brutal loss to Edson Barboza where he was beat down. So I'm interested to see how Hooker looks, but I do favor Hooker a bit. I think this fight remains standing and they just use their striking. And I think if Hooker can close the distance and get inside on Vick, I think he'll have some success because Vick has been rocked numerous times in his career before. So I think Hooker wins by decision. This is a fight that I'm still going back and forth on. Like, could go either way. It's a super close fight and a really interesting fight at lightweight.
Yeah, it's a close fight for sure, and the odds reflect that. I kind of lean towards James Vick here, and the reason is because, again, I bet against guys coming off beatdown losses, and that loss to Edson Barboza was the kind of loss that changes a guy's career. Just a terrible loss for Dan Hooker. He got destroyed in that fight. I thought he was going to win that fight. I'm pretty sure I picked him there. Didn't get that one right. He got destroyed. He is a great fighter. I love watching Dan Hooker fight. He's a finisher. All his fights pretty much end by stoppage either way. And then you got James Vick coming off 2 straight losses, but before that had won 4 straight fights and looked pretty good, I think, in those fights. I slightly lean towards Vick here just because, first of all, he's fighting in his hometown or close to it. He should have the crowd really amping him up in this fight. He needs to get a win to save his career in the UFC. I think he's going to get the job done. I think James Vick outpoints Dan Hooker, wins the decision, but it's hard to trust either guy based on the fact that they've been knocked out a couple times now. And I don't know, just not the kind of guys I put my money on, but I do favor James Vick ever so slightly here. All right, next up, heavyweight bout here. I'm curious to hear your take on this one, Cole. The heavyweight grudge match between Greg Hardy and Juan Adams. Juan Adams opened at minus 155. Greg Hardy opened at plus 115. The early action has come in on the underdog Greg Hardy, and right now the odds are dead even at minus 110 each. It's a pure pick 'em here, Cole. Who's your pick for this heavyweight slobber knocker?
Yeah, this is a super close fight. Juan Adams has been calling this fight before Greg Hardy even got into the UFC. Obviously, Juan Adams' last fight didn't go his way. He was just out wrestled by Arjun Bowler, who's now won championship. Greg Hardy finally got his first UFC win, but that guy, what he fought, Smoliakov, is not a UFC caliber fighter. Before that, he was it was a close fight against Alan Crowder, and then he threw the illegal knee. So it's hard to say. I favor Juan Adams slightly. I think he just uses his wrestling because no one's really tested Greg Hardy's wrestling. But Greg Hardy's power is something you have to be careful of. Like, he has knocked a ton of people out. So it's really interesting. I do favor Juan Adams a tiny bit. I think he has the more experience. He's fought more high-level guys. I think Juan Adams gets done. I wouldn't be surprised if he just grapples and out-wrestles Hardy for 3 rounds.
I like Greg Hardy in this fight. I think he knocks Juan Adams out, man. I believe in Greg Hardy. I mean, I don't necessarily like him as a person, but as a fighter, I do think he's got a lot of potential. He's got a lot of KO power, man. The Crowder fight, whatever happened there, it doesn't matter. Before that, won every fight by KO, and then the last fight against Smoliakov, yeah, that guy is terrible, but still knocked him out, did what he had to do. Juan Adams just is disappointing, man. I thought a lot more of this guy before he came to the UFC. Just has not looked good in the octagon. A really terrible performance against Chris De La Roca. Ended up winning in the 3rd round by stoppage, but it was not a good fight. His cardio looked really bad. And then the Buller fight, just terrible performance. Got out wrestled, like you said. Again, bad cardio, and that worries me. I know Greg Hardy hasn't really been tested as far as, going late into a fight goes, but the guy's got special KO power, man. I think Greg Hardy wins this fight by KO. That's my pick. What's the prop on that? Hardy by inside the distance? No, it's plus 100. There's no point in betting on that at all. If anything, just take Greg Hardy here. I would take Greg Hardy, but clearly Cole disagrees with me. So I'm curious to see what happens in this fight, and we'll be talking about this fight next week. What are you going to say, Cole?
Well, it is a super close fight. Like, I've been going back and forth on this. Like, I was talking to my friend at baseball yesterday, and I'm like, I got Hardy. And then I woke up this morning, was looking at it, and I'm like, man, I got Adams. Like, I don't know. By the time Jay asked for Sherdog picks, I could go back to Hardy. I could say with Adams. Like, it's one, same with the Hooker Vick fight. It's just one I'm flip-flopping back and forth with.
Yeah, and we should mention, like, it's Tuesday right now. This card is not till Saturday. So, myself and Cole both have the right to change our picks, and my picks will always be on MMAOddsbreaker.com the morning of. So I rarely change my pick from what I did say on the podcast, just because I like to stick with my reads. But sometimes, like for instance, last week with Martinez and Lou, I ended up switching to Martinez because I just thought about it more, and the odds were just way too much in Lou's favor, and he ended up getting KO'd brutally. So that could happen. But right now, I personally don't think I'm going to switch my pick on this one, although Cole clearly said that he might. So keep in mind that Cole might change his pick. But for now, I like Greg Hardy here. Next up, co-main event, another heavyweight bout. I don't know why it's all these heavyweight fights. It's either heavyweight or bantamweight fights in this card, Cole. Very strange. Heavyweight bout between Alexei Oleinik and Walt Harris. Walt Harris actually opened as a minus 135 favorite with Oleinik at minus 105 as a dog. And presently we have Harris at minus 145, Oleinik plus 125. Who's your pick in this heavyweight bout, Cole?
This is really interesting because obviously Oleinik wants to get the fight down to the ground, try to submit Walt Harris. Walt Harris needs to keep the fight on the feet. If it goes to the ground, Oleinik's easily going to win submission. If it stays on the feet, Harris is going to win. But what's really interesting, I talked to Oleinik before the fight, and he's like, this is probably the hardest fight I've ever had. It's like, he's like, it's not because of the opponents, because I used to teach Walt Harris jiu-jitsu. He's like, I taught him how to defend all my submissions. So it's kind of interesting to see if Walt Harris picked that up. But I lean towards Oleinik. I think he can get this fight down to the ground, submit him. And in his last runs, although he lost to Overeem, he had Overeem rocked, which is really surprising. Like, he blitzed Overeem, which no one expected, and hurt Overeem. And like, he was landing those up against the cage, those heavy shots. And he tried to get down to the ground. I think he'll get the fight down to the ground against Walt Harris. I wouldn't be surprised if he submits him in the first or second round.
Definitely a close fight. I mean, this go either way. It's striker versus grappler, a true striker versus grappler fight. And if this fight goes to the ground, there's no doubt Oleinik will submit Harris very easily. But if the fight stays standing, I think Harris can knock him out. You know what, man? Harris is a tough guy to bet on because he's been so inconsistent at times, but he's really looked good lately. He's really picked it up. He's been knocking guys out. I'm going to go with Walt Harris to win this fight by KO, but, man, I don't know, because it's just like, if he gets taken down, I think he'll get submitted in a second, just like what happened with the Verdun fight. Well, to be fair to him, that was on very short notice. But, yeah, I'll go with Walt Harris by KO early in the first round, but – yeah, I mean, this could go either way, and I got to think about it a little bit more. And finally, we have the main event of the evening. This is a great fight, Cole. Welterweight bout between two of the best in the world, Leon Edwards and Rafael dos Anjos. We had Rafael dos Anjos opened at minus 135. Edwards opened at minus 105. And currently, Edwards is actually a slight favorite, minus 120. RDA's a plus 100 underdog. So essentially, pick him with a slight lean towards Edwards. Who's your pick in the main event of UFC San Antonio?
This is a really interesting fight. Like RDA, a lot of people wrote him off after he lost to Covington and Usman, but that's the champion and arguably the top contender. And then he dominated, like he really put it on Kevin Lee, and no one really expected that. I picked Lee to win that fight because I kind of faded RDA. And Leon Edwards, he's coming off that. He's on a really long win streak. Has a good win over Donald Cerrone. Has the win over Gunnar Nelson, which went the distance. Which I picked Nelson, but when I was watching the fight, I'm like, wow, Edwards can really finish this. This is a fight I favor RDA. I think his experience will get it done. I think he can out grapple Leon Edwards. Like, because obviously I think he's a way better grappler than Gunnar Nelson, who really had some success against Edwards in the grappling department. I think RDA has the better cardio. I think he can get it done. But I think it goes all 5 rounds, and it's a close decision. But I favor RDA slightly.
Great fight. The odds reflect how close it is. But I like Leon Edwards, man. You know, this is a guy that I've been betting on pretty much his whole UFC career. He's been a really sneaky good bet. Just so impressed with this dude. 7 straight wins now. The model of consistency. For a British guy, they always make fun of British fighters because they can't wrestle. This guy has excellent wrestling. His striking's really good too. And the thing is, he actually doesn't really use his striking anymore. When he came to the UFC, he knocked out Seth Baczynski in 8 seconds. And since then, hasn't actually finished the fight by punches, except for the Sabata fight, which was won by ground and pound at the very last second of the 3rd round. Other than that, he's mostly been winning fights on the ground, which is impressive to me because it shows this guy's well-rounded. RDA, I mean, what else can we say with this guy? He's a stud. Coming off a great win over Kevin Lee, looked amazing in that fight. Really, in the end, just his cardio and his experience won him that fight. But before that, he lost a couple straight fights, two studs in Usman and Covington. He's looked good at welterweight though, 4-2 record. He's a stud. Don't get me wrong, but I like Edwards, man. I believe in this guy. This is less of a fade on RDA and more of just me really liking Leon Edwards. 27 years old. He's a much younger guy in this fight, 7 years younger. I think he has he has a reach advantage as well. He's on a long win streak, man. I like Leon Edwards here. I'm not going to overthink it. Give me Leon Edwards. I think he wins the decision in what is a great fight. And overall, I think it's a pretty good card. You'll see a lot of finishes, especially in those heavyweight bouts. But, I like the fact that me and you disagreed a lot on this one, Cole. We usually agree on all the fights, but next week's going to be interesting to talk about the aftermath of this card because I think it's going to be pretty good. All right, so before we get out of here, let's just talk quickly about UFC San Antonio. Just any reactions to pretty much what we saw on, especially the main card with the Durandamy and Faber fights.
Yeah, the Faber, I did not see that coming at all. I thought I thought Simone was going to dominate that fight. I did not think Faber was going to look that good. He looked really impressive, but don't give Uriah Faber a title shot. He's going to be ranked 15th. Like, he does not deserve it. If he gets it, it's just, I don't know. I don't think he deserves it. The only way he deserves it is give him a top 5 guy. If he could beat it, then give him the title shot. Like, I would be fine with him fighting a guy like Jimmy Rivera or someone like in the top 10, top 5. And if he wins, then give him a title shot. But I did not, like, that was a great performance. Emmett, I picked Bektic, but looking back on it, I probably should have picked Emmett. Like, Emmett's power is unreal, like, at featherweight. And Bektic was coming off that long layoff, and he proved in the Elkins fight, like, he can get rocked and he can get dropped pretty easy. So it was a really good win for Josh Emmett. And it's pretty interesting. I just talked to him yesterday, and after the fight, he's like, "Oh, free drinks on me." And we were in the Sherdog chat. We're like, no one's actually gonna ask him for free drinks. People are probably gonna buy him drinks. And I asked him, like, did anyone actually use the free drinks? Like, come up to you and ask for it? And he's like, yeah, I literally had like 5-6 bottles of alcohol. And it was just whenever someone came up, I just pour them a drink. He's like, we were out there, and it was a great time. But Carl Oberson, I thought Wellington Turman won that fight, and it was a really close fight, similar to most of Robertson's fights. Martin Vettori looked really impressive. Really good to get him back in the win column and get another fight after that long layoff after the USADA issue. But overall, the main card was really good. Prelims kind of dragged on, but it was, if you were just watch the main card, which a lot of fans do, it was a really good card, one of the better ones they've had. Yeah,
I agree with that. Main card was good. Just talking about Faber here. He's getting the title shot, man. We know what's happening, Cole. He's getting that title shot. We'll see Uriah Faber against Henry Cejudo later this year. They want that fight. Well, Faber said yesterday to TMZ he wants the fight in November at MSG. I think it happens, Cole. As long as Cejudo heals up by then, that fight's happening, man. I know it doesn't really make sense. I know it's not fair, but UFC is all about dollars and cents, man. What sells more, Uriah Faber versus Henry Cejudo or Aljamain Sterling versus Henry Cejudo? I mean, it's a pretty easy call, I think, for the UFC. Then they can do Sterling against Peter Yan for the next number one contender spot. You know, I like Sterling. I think he does deserve a shot, but at the same time, does winning a fight against Pedro Munoz really just earn a title shot? I don't know. I mean, I don't think he's a star yet, like Faber is. That's the difference to me. It's like that was a good win for him, but I don't think it was a star-making performance, which is what the UFC is looking for. So I do think you're going to see Faber against Cejudo. Is it fair? No. Is it right? No. But you know what, Cole? At least he's coming off 2 straight wins. There's been way worse title shots given out. We've seen guys coming off losses that get title shots. So to me, this is not bad. I mean, it's bad, but it's not like super, super egregious. Like when like Chael Sonnen got a title shot against John Jones coming off the loss to Anderson Silva, moving up a weight class, or when like Nick Diaz got a title shot against GSP after losing to Carlos Condit. Like those are worse title shots in my opinion, because those guys are coming off losses in different, like really against different guys. So to me, that didn't make sense. At least Faber's coming off 2 straight wins, although again, he beat 2 guys that are unranked. I don't know if Ricky Simon might have been 15th, but does the number 15 guy deserve a title shot? No, and it just shows that the rankings are such bullshit. But again, it's all about dollars and cents, man. And Faber is a draw, and I think he will get the title shot against Cejudo, and we'll see that fight before the end of the year. And just quickly for the Durandamy thing, just getting back to what you said, I agree that female fights seem to be stopped earlier, but I think this is more a Herb Dean issue, if anything, Cole. He's just so inconsistent, man. What's going on with Herb Dean? I mean, listen, like they have a hard job. Referees in MMA have one of the hardest jobs of all officials in sports because you literally have people's lives in your hand. So it's really tough. But that was a bad stoppage, man. Like he's got to pay more attention. Like she was fine, Lad was fine, and Cole. If that fight wasn't stopped, who knows how it would have played out? Maybe it would have been a different fight. I mean, it sucks, right? So it is what it is. Lad got dropped. That's her fault for getting dropped, leaving her chin exposed. But man, I mean, geez, like that was a really early stoppage. Did you watch Bellator as well? You checked it out?
Yeah, I just watched the main card. I watched Leslie Smith's fight too.
How is Julia Budd only a -300 favorite?
Yeah,
not like -1,000 against.
I thought she would have been. That was like such a mismatch. It was. I literally thought Budd was going to win first or second round knockout. Like it was not a close fight at all. But there's. Yeah, I really. Did you see Cyborg's tweet after the card?
Would she say that they have better featherweight?
Yeah, she's like, well, this just proves like Bellator MMA has better featherweight. So I think she's leaving. Like I think she's going to fight this UFC 240 fight. I think like even win or lose, I think she's going to Bellator.
I agree. And, you know, it's one of those things like in basketball, right? Like guys, they're not supposed to talk to other teams until they're actually free agents, but we all know their agents are talking to the teams just even though they're under contract. I think it's probably the same situation. I bet you that Cyborg's management has been talking to Scott Coker and they're like, well, once he's a free agent, we're going to go. Having said that, Cole, I mean, the UFC does hold matching rights to all their free agents, so they're going to be able to match a contract to Cyborg, but it seems like, to me anyways, like Dana White's just tired of her antics and or according to him, her antics. I mean, there's just so much nonsense between those two going on in the media with Dana saying that she turned down the Nunez fight and Cyborg saying she wanted the fight. Like, I really have no idea what's going on with that, but you know, Cyborg, she really needs to be Felicia Spencer. If she goes out there and knocks Felicia out in the first round, that really helps her out as far as free agency goes and getting a big deal. But I do feel like there's a good chance she's going to fight Julia Budd in Bellator, man. And you know what? I actually like that fight. It's a good matchup. I wish Budd was in the UFC. She'd actually be one of the top featherweights, of course. But it is what it is. Contender Series, are you going to check it out tonight?
Yeah, probably.
Any reactions? I talked about it earlier in the other show, but anything you want to mention? The one guy missed weight by 7 pounds, Seiler.
Yeah, it's his. I think his fight's off. I think that's.
They canceled it? Okay, I didn't know that.
I think Nolan tweeted he's off, but they're looking for a replacement. I'm just gonna double check. So.
How do you miss weight by that much? Like, that's embarrassing, you know. And this has actually happened a couple times this season.
Nolan said Deli Edwards is out of his Contender Series headlining bout against Terrence McKinney. McKinney will remain on the card, he says, and an opponent is to be announced. That's not
tonight though. That's another card.
Oh yeah. So yeah, but what are why would you like? How can you miss weight on the Contender Series? Like, you're not going to get signed to the UFC if you miss weight. He could.
I agree, but I mean, Dana White did say that he's like, if the guy has a great performance, like we could still consider signing them. Remember, he did say that.
Yeah, I think say he has a really good performance. I just think they're going to say you either have to come back to Contender Series at this weight or come back at the weight above for Contender Series, but you have to come back for Contender Series if you're going to get a shot.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Bellator announced their tournaments, or featherweight tournament, I should say. What do you think of the matchups, man? Are you surprised they did the Pitbull Archuleta fight in the first round?
I think I'm actually not surprised because I think it's a good fight. Like Archie deserves the title shot, and he might not get it in the tournament. But the thing I'm most surprised about is why is Darren Caldwell in this tournament?
I said the same thing on the podcast this morning. He doesn't deserve it, man. I mean, if he had beat Horiguchi in the last fight or even the one before that, sure, but he lost 2 straight fights to Gooch. He doesn't deserve it.
I don't think he deserves it all. Like there's better featherweights out there, or you can just put other featherweights.
Don't say Aaron Pico though, because he doesn't.
No, I don't deserve. I don't think it. There's guys like Chris Sunshine, like Chris Lencioni, who's on like a good winning streak. Like he could have. He's a prospect, but you could have just thrown him in his first round matchup, see what he had. But I don't think Caldwell deserves it. Pico, I think it's good that he's not in it. He should take time off. Like I don't want to see him fight for the rest of the year. I want to see him like kind of like February, March of next year. Get 4 or 5, like I hate to say it, but easy wins. Like get him. That's like they matchmake them terrible. Like who cares if they did what they did with Dylan Dennis and just give him guys he can beat? Like this guy, everyone says, oh, like they don't like Dylan Dennis in matchmaking, but he's in this arguably the second best promotion with 0 amateur fights. Like normally you fight amateur, then you fight lower level guys in like regional scenes. Like Pico and Dennis really didn't get a chance, and Bellator just kind of threw Pico to the wolves, and it's really hurt his stock. And getting knocked out that many times and getting dropped is really bad for his health overall. So I think he needs to take time off and just heal up and get 4 or 5 easy wins before he fights anyone considerable good in the featherweight division.
Yep, I agree with you on that one. You know, the one fight I like is what's it called? AJ McKee against Pat Curran. Or no, sorry, what's the fight? Adam Borks against Pat Curran.
Yeah.
I like that matchup, man. You know, Borks deserves this kind of fight. You know, this is the kind of fight they would have booked either way. So I like that matchup. Overall, it looks like a pretty good tournament. So, by the way, so is that light heavyweight tournament? Is that confirmed then for next year? Is that I saw Jay was tweeting about that or talking?
I don't know. I heard about it, but like
I couldn't find any news.
What light heavyweight do they have? They have like 6.
Yeah, I know. I saw Jay talking about it in the chat room, but I didn't see anything about it.
I think it's just been rumored because they want to do a tournament every year, but like there's way better divisions. Like the only thing I could think of is you do Bader, you do Machida moves up, maybe Musasi moves up, and you get like Nemkov, but there's not a whole lot of guys at light heavyweight in Bellator.
Yeah, I know. I agree. All right, well, I think that's it for today, Cole. I think we talked about everything we wanted to, unless there's anything else I missed that you want to bring up.
No, I don't see anything else.
All right, cool. All right. Oh, actually, one more other thing. Fedor is coming back. Now, Scott Coker said either Rampage or Josh Barnett. Which fight do you like better?
I think I like the Barnett one a bit better.
I mean, they were supposed to fight in Affliction, right? Like years ago. So
either or is a good fight for Fedor, though.
They're both good fights. I honestly like. Listen, I posted the article on BJ Penn. People are laughing their asses off right now on the Facebook page, but this is the kind of fight that Fedor really needs. He shouldn't be fighting guys like Ryan Bader, who are like way younger than him and have so much power. He should be fighting older guys like Rampage and Josh Barnett. So I like both those fights, but I do like the fact they're going to be going back to Japan. I think that's going to be pretty cool. I love the crossover thing with Ryzen, man. Well,
did you hear what Coker and the Ryzen's president were saying?
Yeah, what did you say?
They were saying they want to do a Bellator versus Ryzen show in late 2019 or early 2020. Yeah. So like every fight would be a Bellator fighter versus a Ryzen fighter, which would be really cool to see.
That sounds amazing. Doesn't that sound good? I love that. I know. So to me, that's the way to go. And I saw Julia Budd actually said that she wouldn't mind fighting in Japan too. I'm sure they could find some like 7-foot tall Japanese woman.
Well, she wants Gabby Garcia, which is crazy.
I was going to say, like, they got to find some freak show fight for her, right? That should be good. Anyways, let's get out of here. First and foremost, guys, follow me on Twitter at MMAdamMartin. This podcast, MMAOddsbringer.com. Go to our YouTube channel, like, share, and subscribe. Appreciate that, guys. Also, check me out at Sherdog.com, BJPenn.com, MMAnews.com, and MMAratings.net. Cole, plug your stuff, and let's head out of here.
Twitter at ColeShaw91, BJPenn.com. I talk to Alexio Linick and just always writing news there. Sherdog, talk to Modafferi, Sam Alvey, Stephen Pedersen. Pedersen actually had a really interesting one. I asked about the whole Louis Pena missed weight thing. He said Sean Shelby basically pulled him over, and he's like, this is a joke. Like, he should not have missed weight by that much. Like, you don't have to take this fight. We'll find you on like soon. Like, we'll find you on like really soon. He basically said, no, like, I'm fighting. I don't give a shit. Like, and then basically Sean Shelby, he's like, all right, here's a new contract. So gave a new contract right after the fight. Like, there's a contract waiting for him after the fight, which is really cool to see. And then, yeah, just anything else, just follow my Twitter. I'll have all my links there. So just at ColeShelton91.
Awesome, Cole. All right, thanks for joining me today, Cole. We'll be back next week talking about the UFC 240 card in Edmonton. But until then, guys, have a great day, and I'll see you guys tomorrow for the regular podcast. Have a good one.